Hello and welcome back to my second channel, Shwabados, and to another album review. I told you I'd be doing more of these, and here we are. We have Rustage and McGwire's Sword and Sorcery. Why am I so phlegmy? Okay, the title and album art for this project really promises something magic, but to be honest, the album isn't exactly what I was hoping for. Both artists really deliver on this album, both in ways we've come to expect and ways that might surprise you. But to be honest, after sitting with the album for a week and a bit, the feeling I'm getting is underwhelming. Now, leading up to this album's release, I was actually pretty excited. I'm a big fan of a lot of what Rustage and McGwire do separately and together, so having these two come together in a longer form collaborative project like this had me excited to hear something different. Maybe they were going to experiment with song structure and style, playing off of each other. But they kind of didn't. They kind of just did most of what we've heard them do already. Songs follow a verse-hook format that we've heard 1,000 times before. McGwire is reserved almost exclusively for the choruses, while Rustage handles most of the album's substance. We get to hear this duo step into some uncharted territories on the final track, Before Your Eyes, which is conceptually really dense. It has a great through line from the rest of the album. It really benefits from being on a longer project like this, and the context that it exists in it exhibits some of Rustage's best writing and really plays to the strengths of McGwire in a way we haven't heard before. But the rest of the album kind of just feels like a collection of singles. Tracks seem to exist in their own kind of bubble, and nowhere is this more obvious than in the actual track order for the album. Going from Hold Me Down to Freefall really makes it feel like there's not much cohesion to this album and very little mindful thought paid to the actual ordering of the songs. Then again, Conquest seems to think that the track list is genius, jumping from a song like Hold Me Down that talks a lot about conditions associated with ADHD and that kind of thing, into a track that is completely different is actually a 1000 IQ move, and the two of these guys should be applauded for the track listing, but I'm less certain. Now, listen, I don't need every album to be groundbreaking masterpiece with a crazy conceptual through line start to finish, being incredibly conceptually dense. I don't need that from every album. But when you bring two really strong singles artists together and have them collaborate so closely across multiple tracks like this, you expect them to present you with something that you can't find anywhere else. Listening to an album like this, I really want to hear the artists ditching the formulaic aspects of their music to make more creatively rich decisions. Even looking at Rustage's last album, Overflow, or other projects from our community like Ham's Anatomy 2, Soundwave Fox's Integrate EP, each of them felt very different and divorced from the singles that the artist was bringing out at the time, even when they were stylistically very similar to what they were doing. Sword and Sorcery does not. Now, don't misunderstand me. I actually really do like some of this album. The songs we get here are great. If you like Rustage and McGwire's usual style, there is plenty to get stuck into here. Wizard is full of fun, nerdy punchlines, really saucy flows, and a really cool style that is kind of... Wizard is full of Rustage's unique brand of nerdy, punchline, fun, and saucy flows and charisma. Halley's Comet is a painfully relatable story of the hermit-like lifestyle one adopts when you become a full-time entertainer and content creator. Hold Me Down is a very well-written look at the sort of inner workings of both of these artists' mental state. I love these songs.
It don't come for long at all.
Fire. I love that. Yeah. Great second song.
I think Rustage is at his best on songs like Hold Me Down and Before Your Eyes, where he has a very clear message, a statement that he wants to make, and he doesn't need to worry and get bogged down with making punchlines and similes and jokes. By the end of some of Rustage's songs, I honestly get pretty tired of hearing the format of, I'm this like I'm that, I'm this how I that. He relies pretty heavily on direct comparisons to make clever punchlines, and honestly, even the wittiest punchline is going to fall on numb ears if by the end of a song I've heard that same line structure repeated over and over again. Now, a song like Wizard actually strikes this balance really well and comes out really well put together and quite clever in its writing because of it. But you look at a song like Freefall, and yeah, there's a lot of that formulaic repetition of the line structure where it just stops me coming back to the song at all. It's also worth mentioning McGwire's writing. He obviously has a lot less lyrics than Rustage in this project, but he does have some pretty well put together lines throughout the project. On Hold Me Down, he says, I'm frozen in space all over the place, and the way that that line speaks to what Rustage was talking about earlier in the same song is really powerful. And Rustage and McGwire, when they come together like that and they kind of reiterate the message in a meaningful way, it kind of elevates the songs a lot. All right, let's quickly talk about some of the technical aspects of the album. The production, Rustage's production is pretty great throughout, except for Static, which isn't his beat, it's a leased beat, so I'm not really going to mention it. But yeah, snappy percussion, Foley, rich texture, relatively simple melodic samples. They're all staples of Rustage's production styles. We've heard Rustage beats before. They're good. Next. The mix throughout is pretty solid, but I do have to bring up something about McGwire's vocals. Now, McGwire's singing is one that has a lot of character in it, which means that when you use things like auto-tune a little heavy-handedly, which I think Rustage does at times, it kind of interferes with the performance. I know that I'm listening to this with a trained ear, so maybe it doesn't matter to 90% of the listeners, but on tracks like Freefall, I can really hear the auto-tune, the plugin, even the manual retuning maybe, interfering with parts of McGwire's singing, and it just hits my ears wrong. I know it feels like I've kind of banged on about the negative quite a lot when it comes to this album, but that's just because all of the good aspects of this album, the things that I like, are unfortunately things that you can find elsewhere in McGwire and Rustage's music. So I haven't really highlighted them that much because I've done a lot of praising McGwire and Rustage for the standard aspects of their style that we've come to know and love. I still highly recommend Swords and Sorcery. The first 3 tracks are super dope. I love them, and I really think you need to listen to the album front to back at least once just to get the satisfaction of reaching that final song's conclusion in the context of the album where it was meant to be listened to.
That's what I'm talking about. The fuck I'm talking about, man.
But to be honest, one run through is enough for me. Devil's Look feels like a song that was added just to bump up the runtime. My Moment feels like it's from a completely different project and has nothing to do with the album that it's actually on. And honestly, I would be very happy if I never heard Freefall again.
Flowing like a river, way she give me love, make me big like I'm Cliff. Love it.
If you like Rustage and McGwire's usual style, you are going to like this album. If you've never heard them before, it's going to be a perfect introduction to what they do, and they do it well. I'm going to give this album a 68 out of 100. As someone who's very familiar with both of these artists' catalogs, it's difficult for me to be excited about the music on here, but it is still good music. Well, there it is, another album review over. Again, I've changed the format up from the first album review. I'm still kind of figuring this thing out. I've got a green screen now. I don't know if the extra editing hours for this is going to be worth it, but let me know in the comments if you agree with what I said about the album. Anything that you think I'm bugging on, let me know. Let me know how you guys are going to rate this album out of 100 as well. But that's it. I've been Shwabados. This has been the Swords and Sorcery album review. Y'all been very kind. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.